Welcome to an invitation to sisterhood. We want you to join us on a journey as we discuss everyday issues affecting our lives. Women in the Bible and of Christian history continue to have an impact on the world even years after their deaths. We can learn so much from them. They are sisters of inspiration. And we're all sisters, sisters in Christ. We're talking about redemptive suffering. Saint Pope John Paul II addressed suffering greatly during his lifetime. In his apostolic letter on the Christian meaning of human suffering, he said that suffering is part of human existence from birth to death, and every human person suffers in a variety of ways. Suffering in one form or another accompanies each of us every day. It is an inexplainable feature of human existence. Suffering naturally leads to the questioning of, why do I suffer? Why do others suffer? How can we explain and overcome this suffering? Is there any meaning to suffering? Well, to find out those answers, John Paul II talked about the revelation of suffering. On the show today is Father Douglas Bazi, who by many accounts endured horrific suffering in the form of torture by Islamic extremists. In November 2006, Father Douglas was kidnapped by a militant group where he was tortured and released days later. He suffered multiple injuries, including two broken vertebrae from his spinal cord, and his face, teeth, and knees were smashed by a hammer. That is amazing suffering that many of us will never experience in our lifetime, but he's here on the show to talk with us and my co-hosts, May Saman and Patrice Abuna. Thanks for joining us, Father Bazi.
Thank you very much.
You know, Father Douglas, to hear what you have gone through, I've read the story, I've talked to you now a few times, I've heard you being interviewed. It's still hard for me to wrap my head around that kind of suffering of what you went through. And I think most people here in the United States cannot understand that level of suffering. So what would you say to them?
Of course, I will not invite people to have the same chance.
Sure.
But first of all, actually, I start talk about my own story because before I don't want to talk about it, I don't want the people feel badly and to feel sorry about me. But I start actually talk about my story because it's related with my people, with my community, what is going on in my country. But first of all, we are human, and I don't want to dancing around the words, but suffer itself, it's hard. Mm-hmm. But it's different between people and between even me, myself, when we look to the period when I was suffering. But believe me, sometime after the suffering is hard more than when I was under the suffer itself. Because that time it was no choice to me to be in that situation. After I have to or take it or just forget it. Forget it, no way. So to talk about it or to explain to people, I'm talking about when you talk about your suffer, about with lovely people, sometimes you cannot mention that. This has happened actually a couple months ago. For example, my mother, now she heard about my story in 2006. Wow. She never heard about what happened to me that time. Wow. She just thought that I've been kidnapped, and it was an accident, something like that. She never heard about details. She knew through the media, not through me.
Wow. That's very profound what you just said, that you said during the suffering, and I heard your testimony via video. And I was in tears listening to the suffering, but what brought me more to tears was how you actually ministered to your captors. During the day, they would ask you for advice on their troubles, and you would minister to them with love and give them genuine advice and help. And at night, they would torture you and harm you, and like Vanessa said, I mean, they used things like a hammer to break your teeth and parts of your body. And so it's very profound that type of suffering, you say, you can accept it or that you can deal with it, but the after part is the most difficult. And why is that? Why would it be? One would think, the common person would think that it's the actual physical suffering, the mental, the emotional at the time that might be the most difficult, because you're suffering on so many different levels, spiritually, emotionally, physically, mentally. But how could it be that it's the after that would be more difficult? Why is that? What makes it?
When I talk about that time, my heart remember all things I cannot tell the people. For example, the smell of the people, the effect of bad words when they are using against me. I'm talking about bad words, not like to say stupid or infidel. Those actually, they were the easy one. But the hard one when they are, target your lovely people, families, friends. And when they are mention your faith, those actually, they are really hard. And those actually, I cannot imagine and telling the people what happened. When I was actually kept, they let me with chain, 9 days. The first place was, to me, it was the one of the, used to be WC, the restroom. So my place was there. And I spent there a couple days there. After that, when I tried to explain how was, so all the situation is different when I talk about that, because people, they are listening to story. I was talking about a big time. It's a part of my life. And that big time, maybe to others is event, but to me it was life. To others is a story or lesson, but to me it was life. And that one, if I want or not, this became one of the base and I start to build over it. And that base, I cannot change it. It's a part of me. Even it was not me, my willing to choose it, but I've been forced with that.
But you accepted it, and listening to, again, going back to listening to the testimony, obviously you're a priest, and one almost right away expects for a priest to have that faith and bear whatever suffering may come or persecution may come, but you're still human. And we still have weaknesses. How were you able to cope during, you ministered to them, you were giving them advice, and they left you without water for 4 whole days, without food or water. There was a point where you mentioned, and they said that they would decapitate you and put a dog's head on your body and sew it on. And I remember you said to them, in your testimony, you can tell us what you responded, and if you don't mind sharing that, what you responded to them when they say.
First of all, as you mentioned, as a priest, I want you
Yes.
just to mention that priests, I do respect all the priests, of course, and they understand what I'm talking about.
Right.
We have a prayer at the end of the Mass. That prayer is written. You say the priest to the altar, to the temple. You say, it's like goodbye, the temple, altar of God, the temple of Jesus Christ. And I don't know if I'm going to celebrate the Mass again or not. So that's prayer.
You say that
Special.
privately to yourself, or is it
Yes,
out loud?
it is no, it's a prayer, and that's prayer. That's to me in Baghdad, and almost the priests in Baghdad. Believe me, they like that prayer. I don't know. They love it more than the other prayers, because in Baghdad, when I decide to go out, I don't know if I will come back again.
Wow.
Second, as a priest, and you say, who I am to complain? Who I am to say, I like this or not? As a priest, we don't have this choice. Not because we are not free people. No, because we are free people. And we belong to a school named Never Give Up. And As you mentioned that story, it was, they bring me to another place, from the restroom to that place. And one of the guy, of course, he was not from the same people, because I live with the same people, and already I give them nicknames by voice to recognize them.
Yes, you recognize their voices.
And
because your eyes were your eyes closed? I mean, would they have covered?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And when they used to beat me during the night, the day follow, they asked for forgiveness. And they told me, I beat you yesterday, but because the big boss was there, and forgive me for that.
Wow.
So the guys actually came, and he was the first time I met him, because I recognized from the voice. But I can recognize he's different. The level of education is different. Look like the people around me. He used I can smell the leather and also the perfume. And that one, he told me, we are going to replace, because you are infidel, so you are just a dog. We are replace your head with the head of one of the dog. So we are going to take off your head and replace the bodies.
Yes.
And immediately one of them, he just start, and he say, yeah, after that we are going to cut your body, your flesh, and make it, pieces. And I start laughing.
Your response
And of
is amazing.
course, one of them, he hit me, I guess, by pistol, and with a lot of bad words, of course. And he told me, why you are laughing? And I told him that, did you hear what he say? They are going to, make my body pieces. And they say, if you are going to take off my head, so whatever you are going to do, I will not feel pain anymore. And of course, they start laughing. But of course, he said bad words to that guy. They told him, stupid, how you can say such stupid things like that? He's already will be killed, and he will never, feel about pain anymore. Yeah.
So when you tell these stories about these specific men that were torturing you, it might be a little bit more tangible for you to forgive these certain people. But what about people that suffer in different ways, where, say, they lose a loved one and they can't forgive a tangible person? How do you sort of cope with that kind of suffering that people might deal with in that way, where the only one you're looking to that caused the suffering is maybe God?
Who has the right to judge people and to forgive them? It's just the only God. But if we look to our life, first of all, it's not easy.
No.
Still, there is a lady in my church. She's from Karakosh, 10 now. She used to tell me, Father, please pray for my father, because he just disappeared. From last year till now, we don't have any news about him.
Wow.
And this lady, she forget to talk against those people like Daesh, but still she is focusing on wishes, prayer, that one day she will meet
Love.
her father.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is the Christian.
Yeah.
I don't like to mix between when we say, for example, God, look what Islam they are doing, take them souls. No, we have to do another way, to say, God, please protect us and save us. Don't mention, wars against the enemy. And all the love stories come from God is for that, suffering, Jesus, forgive, and we have salvation.
And that's amazing, because that's not our natural instinct as human beings. I think one of the hardest things I've had to do in my life is pray for my enemies. And I don't even have enemies I probably do, but I just don't suffer from those enemies. And to pray for our enemies, I think, is the hardest lesson. The fact that the Christians in Iraq are able to do that. And we're going to take a quick break, but what I want you to talk about, Father Douglas, is the fact that you had said in other interviews that the Christians in Iraq are not angry with God. They understand what's happening is not God's fault. And we're going to continue that conversation when we come back with Father Douglas Bazi. Stay with us, everyone. Welcome back to an invitation to sisterhood. We're talking with Father Douglas Bazi from Erbil, Iraq, and we're talking about redemptive suffering. And Father Douglas, before we took a break, May had asked you about what your response was to the captors when they said they were going to replace your head and torture you with a dog's head. And you actually had a response that really was profound and really defined what Christianity is all about. Can you tell us about that?
First of all, to be among bad guys, believe me, to be murdered or dead, this will be a good choice. Second, actually, when I used to teasing them more than they used teasing me, because to them it's the life, it is with the deaths will be finished, So when they teasing me that we are going to replace you, I just told them, the deaths to us is not the end, it's the beginning. And whatever you want to do with my body, because we know where's our souls. And I remember not the guy, another guy used to be among in the house where I was there, and he started again talk about the stupid things we are not understand what he's talking about, because I told them no, the death to you it's just the end. To us, it's just the beginning.
Which is amazing, which is absolutely the core of what we believe, which leads to, you suffered so much and you have so much to share, and however, as a priest, you understand the meaning of suffering and why it happens to us. Most people who suffer question, why is this happening to me? Why is God allowing it if He loves me? And I think, would you say that maybe one of the keys to understanding suffering would be understanding why God allows it? If you could share with us, how you were able to accept it and deal with it as you were, but really for everyone else who is not aware of why we suffer, what is its value? Why does God allow it? Why does He allow for evil to prosper and for the innocent to suffer? You are His priest. One might say, how could He allow for this to happen to you or to our people? So, if you can explain that to us, that would.
From the Old Testament, Jacob, the prophet.
Yes.
When he was talking with his wife, and she told him, and wives, when. and she told him, look to what happened to us. We lose everything, your house, your sons, everything. And he said to her, why we have to accept just the good things and not the bad things from God.
Mm-hmm.
As a Christian, we are not just for good days, but also for bad days. We've been called not just for relaxing time.
Right.
And the answer is from Jesus. Jesus say, you have to carry your cross. But it's not just to carry the cross, but to follow me. That means we have to take it in our life. And of course, each one of us has different cross,
Yes.
In my church also, I do have 564 people. One of my nicknames there, the people, they call me mother-in-law.
Martha.
Why? Because I'm always, don't do that. You have to keep this one clean, take the kids away. So they call me Martha. That's mean mother-in-law. Okay. And so I became another,
Yes.
another cross to them. But it is not the question if God allowed or not. But actually, it's different in our way of life to look to that. You can see many people, they are missing the past. They say, I hope that, the past to come back again. Believe me, it's not they are missing the past. If they believe that the past will come, they will hate it. But we look to the past, when was the suffering at that time, and when we look to that past, and that past, that suffer, make me today as I am. So that's why I respect that past. So who actually created me? That means not create as a God, but create my personality with that pain. People can live with pain forever. Sometimes pain keep us focusing on our life. In my church there with my people, it's full of pain there. Pain when people they are asking me a lot of questions and there are no answer to them questions. It's pain itself. Just for looking to the future, looking for it's pain itself. When we have questions without answer, it's pain. So pain keep us focusing on what we want to do. And pain sometimes save us. So the suffering itself, it save us.
If we turn to God, though.
Yeah.
Because I am pain,
Do we
because
not need
I'm
faith?
suffering, that's mean
Yeah.
I not belong to devil. I am suffering, that's when I belong to God. And I'm not feeling that I'm suffering, I'm in the wrong side. I am in the wrong place. But because I'm pain, that's I believe
But
I am in the wrong path.
But what
in the
that
right
takes,
path.
to get to that, you have to have, and this is another thing, is faith. So what do you say to somebody that doesn't have faith? Because you can have that suffering, understand that that suffering means that you're unified with God if you have faith. But if you don't have faith, what do you tell to those people?
My people, no one blame or has a problem with God to what happened.
That's
That's
amazing
amazing.
to
That
me.
is miraculous.
No one blame
Wow.
God. No one. All blame what happened because it's that one by man, not by God.
And you don't
Yeah.
see that here in the United
Yes.
States.
No.
You don't.
Yes.
Day by day, that's been I'm talking about since August 6, 2014. That day when the people fled from Mosul, they were blame man. After that, they change. They say, thanks God, because that day you saved us.
wow.
It's incredible to me. It's just that perspective on life, what we can learn so much from those people because we don't have
Yeah.
that same perspective. I mean, the experiences that I've had with people is that we automatically blame God when things don't go our way.
Yeah,
And
sure.
I've seen it time and time again. I'm just as guilty as the next person. And what amazes me too is I see you as a total blessing to the people in Iraq by your mere nature, by your disposition, by your outlook, by your sense of humor. Because I think most people, including myself, would be very bitter and anger. And I'm so inspired by your personality and your disposition and what hope you bring. Because you bring even me hope, and I'm not even in that situation. Where does that come from?
I'm not hero, okay?
I know,
I'm just
but
a
where does it
priest
come?
living among my people, okay? I look to my past and I wish, pray, to not the next generation have the same thing like I threw out. So I'm fighting for the next generation to not have the same thing as we had. Again, I will say that who I am to complain. I know there are a lot of people complain even when they got flu. They say, "Oh my God, why is that happened to me?"
Yeah.
I know that very well, okay? But when we look, comparing between different life, and here, for example, the people ask me, how is Detroit? I say, I'm just imagine I am here like in paradise, and I'm going back to hell again.
You speak about, you look at your past, which forms you. Your suffering, basically, is what you were saying, forms you into becoming stronger and persevering and overcoming evil. Because as you said, you said that the people are people there, and you overlook 150. You have 150 refugee families at Mar'eliya and Ankawa, who you.
564 people.
People, but okay.
That's mean 113 families.
113 families. And we are all amazed by the fact that they are not angry. Pope John Paul II wrote that apostolic letter that Vanessa referred to. And he speaks the evils of man, and that man suffers because of his own doing. We make choices. We were talking about how sometimes we become angry and that they are not angry at God. And the fact that they are not angry at God shows to me, their true faith, because if we really think about it, God is a father. God intended for us, God wishes for us to have joy. He wants peace, not war for us. He wants healing, not suffering. And so sometimes people will say, well, it's the will of God, but God wills good things for us, not bad things. So how is it that they're able to reconcile their pain and their suffering with acceptance? How are they able to accept it? How are they able to continue to live from day to day and see the good and not focus on, I've lost my home, I've lost my money, many of them have lost family members. They still have no idea what is going to happen to them. How do they continue to live without putting blame on the Lord? Because that's what we do. We put that blame on him because, we believe in him. And so that is part of our suffering too, laying blame. But so how do they cope with that? What is it that they have that we maybe do not or can learn from?
Mm-hmm. The idea comes actually from the Old Testament. Mm-hmm. Before, they were related between sin and the punishment or pain.
Yes.
The people, they used to thought that anything happened to me, it's related because I did something bad.
Wrong, yes,
Yeah.
against
Wrong.
God.
Oh, yeah.
Against.
Right.
Okay?
Yes.
So,
Punishment.
yes.
Yes.
Of course, I'm not here to represent my people. I am the
Right.
people here.
Yes.
And I can see how my community look to the issue. Mm-hmm. So that idea comes from the Old Testament. It is related between punishment and sin.
Yes.
It does not exist. Why? Because what happened to us, okay, we are not guilty with, we are never being, part of anything to be, the people punished. Mm-hmm. The only guilt we have is just our faith. Mm-hmm. So we are not actually did something bad. That's why we are losing our houses or no. Right. We are, what happened to us because we are Christian. So we don't have that idea. So the next idea it is what comes with Jesus. When they ask him, Lord, what do you think? Who actually get mistake? When he was talking about the blind man,
Yes.
or his parents, and he said, not him.
Whose sin was it that he was born blind?
No,
yes.
It's just to showing the mercy of God.
Yes.
So actually, we are look to what happened in Mosul, and I'm really sorry if the people there misunderstand me. Mm-hmm. I'm not political here. And look, when Jesus also answered, he looked to what happened in Mosul. It's the same thing. It's just to showing how God loves us because he saved us. We are not belong to houses. We are not belong to street. They are value. Mm-hmm. They are important. Mm-hmm. But look if I lose one of my kids, if I lose, as you mentioned, one of our people, who can make this up? No one. So we are important because we are not belong to land. We are belong to Jesus.
We were made for him and not for this world that passes.
Well, see, they seem to have a better understanding of our faith than we do.
Yes.
Because your point is for them to understand that perspective and have that perspective, they're much more grounded in the words of Christ than we are who blame God.
They truly are redeeming their suffering with Christ, and which is today's topic, redemptive suffering. How is it that when we suffer, how is it that we are redeemed? How does it redeem us? And you're giving us some wonderful examples of our own people and how they unite that suffering and are still able to focus on the good. But for those that don't understand, for example, my father passed away of leukemia when I was 16. As a 16-year-old, I was sleeping in the hospital taking turns with another sister during his last months of life. So as a 16-year-old, I did not understand why he was suffering so much. You know, I questioned why was God doing that to him, because I saw him physically suffer and become 98 pounds. You know, and we all suffered with him. I didn't understand at the time, but now as an adult, you know, as I learned more about my faith and the love of God and how he really does not want us to suffer. This all goes back to original sin. He always intended eternal life with him in heaven. But now as an adult, I see the fruits and the value that the Lord really blessed not only my father, but through using him to impact us and shaping us and forming us to come closer to him. And so when you see your people suffering, how do you think it has impacted others, not just within our own community? Where do you see the fruit of that suffering, or do you see the fruit, and where else does it lie besides the fact that they are not angry with God and they continue to live in hope?
Yeah. I'm not surprised actually when they used to attack my people. I'm not surprised at all. Just the last 100 years we've been attacked 8 times, been forced 4th time to be escape from place to place.
Yes.
I'm surprised how my people, they are still there. Why? Because that suffer, the fruit of that suffer, take us to be adapt with situation. But that's one, you know, everyone can succeed, believe me. Even Yazidi, they are not believing God, but they can make it. They will survival.
Right.
But the question here, when you mention about faith, that one is important. Because the faith, it's like to keeping the grace for the next generation. People without faith, they will not keep the grace to the next generation. They will pass another thing. For example, hate, ignorance. That's why if you look to why people from Mosul hate us much like that, I don't blame them. Because they've been forced to be Muslim, to convert before 400 years ago. Even why they attack my people, because the Ottoman Turkish Empire, he born from the lady and she was, the man, he was Armenian. So they're rejecting as a guy. When he grow up and became a king, so you look to the reaction, that suffer make him to kill all Armenian, and he belonged to them. He was not Muslim. He's from father and he's Armenian. That's why he hates them when someone go up from the same group and he cannot live with them. So he hates that group.
Cannot forgive. So it sounds like forgiveness plays a tremendous role in accepting and hoping.
Here the faith actually, what the faith doing? The faith look to the suffering, but actually how is affect to the people around, and faith protect that suffer and bring it as a lesson, wise lesson to the next generation, but stop the hate, stop the ignorance, stop all that bad things, not transferring to the next generation. That's why we used to hear from our people, our parents, always say, Brony, my son, don't be like them. Be careful. Don't take the weapon. You used to forgive to the others. That's why we are still survival, but with grace, not with hate.
But Father Douglas, do you believe that how you react to the suffering could convert the souls of the Islamic extremists in Iraq? By the mere fact that you had mentioned that you were consulting with your captors during the day.
He was ministering
to them.
And laughing
and
and
the
joking.
fact that our people are not blaming God in our reaction to their persecution, do you believe that could change the heart of Muslims in Iraq and the extremists in Iraq and the people that are actually torturing you?
Till now I baptized 5 Muslims in Iraq.
How many?
5. Every day in Erbil, even when I was in Baghdad, every day, a lot of Muslims come to us asking us, can we be Christian because we are not proud as a Muslim anymore. Believe me, if they change what they call the constitution, our constitution.
The constitution based on Sharia law. Yeah.
If they change that one when it's written, that's mean freedom to religion, okay?
Yes.
Believe me, after 20 years, the Muslim in Iraq, they will be minority.
Wow.
Wow.
If just they change that one.
Just to say that there's a freedom of religion.
Go to the Yazidi, just when they will see that we are going there with the cross, immediately you are welcome there. Immediately they will trust you.
Because they know you by your fruits.
That's right.
That's
They
why.
trust us.
That's
They
why.
know Christians by their love. It's the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's why
The same
you can
thing.
see where they are the Christian, where they are the church, immediately the Muslim, they bring and build the mosque close. We never go and build church close
Right,
to the
the
mosque.
mosque, yeah.
Never. And this will not happen.
Yeah.
So
So there's a fear by leaders that you would convert and Muslims will become the minority, or they wouldn't be doing what they're doing.
you know, according to the Islam, if someone convert, actually they will be killed
Yeah,
immediately.
yeah.
That's why they are scared. And those people, why they are, you know, hate us, because those people, they can't change. They cannot accept.
They
They
do
know
not have
that
Christ.
we are right.
Yes.
They are believe actually. They want to hear about our faith, our Jesus. But they can't. They are afraid.
Sometimes some will say, you know, some fathers or saints of the church, or even in Pope John Paul's letter, he says that, apostolic letter, he mentions how suffering can lead to joy. It is hard to imagine that someone who may be in fear of their life, or, you know, in pain, or, you know, I have a good friend, for example, whose mother has Alzheimer's, and she's literally watching her wither away. Physically and mentally, she is no longer able to speak. She no longer is able to eat. And so, you know, we've talked about this before, and as a catechist, I understand what that means, but being in the middle of that suffering, or watching your mother, you know, this is her mother, wither away and has to be spoon-fed, and knowing that she is dying, you know, and the whole family being affected. And you spoke about, you know, how there is such an impact. The graces flow out of these people who are suffering, and God uses that suffering to impact the lives of others and the conversions of heart. And while that happens, how is it that possible? How can you find joy? Can you explain to us how can you find joy from suffering?
First, it needs actually time. It just takes time. Second, again, you know, people with faith, they can take the bad issue more than people without faith.
They accept suffering better?
It's not accept, actually. They look the way to the suffering.
The way they view it, yes.
Sometimes
understand it.
when God closes a door, maybe He will find another window, okay?
Yes.
But the life should go on. And as believers, it is not our role or our job to put the plan. We are the plan. But we are not making the plan. We are not coordinator with God.
But those people might not be aware of that. You know, some people who watch their loved ones suffer might not have that understanding or that deep faith.
Actually, they are doing the same thing. No, they are doing the same thing, like God. For example, when we are deal with our kids,
Yes.
sometimes we push them with the, I don't know, horrible things. No, don't do that. And
Yes.
not some. Many times our kids, they hating us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also my title job, I am the principal, the school, private school there
Yes.
in Erbil. And when the kids, one of the students sent him to Father Douglas' office, is the
Yes.
end of the life. Don't send me to Father Douglas'
That
office.
means you're doing your job.
But I believe when they will grow up, they are going to do the same thing
Yes.
I used to do.
Sure.
And our kids, even they showing they are not like us, they are but when they will grow up, it's the same thing with us. How many times we hate what our parents, ask to do,
100%.
but when we grow up, we are using the same thing. Why? Because we find that way is work.
Yeah.
So it is not, actually we are not looking for joy, but the joy is come automatically.
Yes.
But doesn't
After
joy
doing
come through-
that.
Because
but
joy is
doesn't
not
joy-
happiness. Sometimes
No,
people
confuse it.
confuse
No, it is-
happiness with joy.
Yeah, that's right.
It's different.
We are not crazy people to be just a smile.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But the Christian one who can make the others feel comfortable,
Yes.
that comfortableness make them to be happy.
Well, that joy comes from Christ. It's like the joy you bring, even though you've come from a place of suffering, brings happiness to other people because you have Christ in your heart. It's like trying to fill the void when you don't have Christ with all the other addictions, which
Right.
cause you to suffer. So you become an alcoholic or a gambler or a shopaholic because we're all trying to fill that void that really should be filled with Jesus Christ, where joy comes from. And
Yes.
like May and I talked about, people confuse joy with happiness. People think, oh, if I get this car, I'll be happy. If I buy this house, I'll be happy. You could live on the streets, like you just said, that people in Iraq understand. Joy comes not from the house they had to leave behind or all their belongings. It's coming from their faith.
The peace of Christ
You are
itself
right.
and understanding.
And as a Christian,
Yes.
our way, our mission, our call, it is how to make the people to feel that. We are actually, in my church, I'm not making the life easier to them. If I bring, for example, clothes, they will feel that with this new clothes, now we have, but actually inside, when I offer to them clothes, a new clothes, they will remember why they have now to take the clothes.
Yes.
They remember the past. Look, that one pushed them to be sad. So we are not make them the life easier, or as you mentioned, just the happy. But we are looking for another thing. Caring itself
Yes.
make people to feel comfortable
Loved.
and loved.
What, just to change it a little bit, what advice or what do you think that if, say, I know someone that is suffering, what can I do as a friend and as a Christian to help them through their suffering? So I'm not personally dealing with any suffering, but I have a friend or family member. Like, what can I do to help them?
Yeah, the difference between Christian and another religion, the Christian actually through inside the pain. Another religions actually they jump over. I do respect, of course. For example, what they call them Buddhists.
Buddhists.
Okay.
Yes.
They try to make the pain outside of the body or outside the Muslim. Actually, they are ready to kill for to stop the suffering. The Christian actually just they threw in the pain. So our job, it is not just, we are not doctor to make surgery to the people to take that pain, but we are trying to support them to say, look, this is your life, and I'm going to help you 90%, but this will be the last step, will be you.
Yes.
And you have to take your step to your life because you are free. And because you are free and you can take your choice by yourself. And this is our life. Why we are always looking to be winners, okay? And sometimes we find that if we are going to lose, this is the end. This is not a question or either. This is our life. If I'm going to take it like this, maybe, for example, what happened to my community, we are the loser in our game in Iraq. We lose the battle, but not the war. We win the war. Now look to what happened. They are going to talk about what happened to my people. Even after 300 years, they are going to say they were peaceful people. They were sons of gods there. Sons of gods. Those people, they were really honest. And look, people they will remember as a good people, and they will not forget bad peoples. So the bad peoples, they will be forever. Forever. No one mentioned them, in good. But we are going to be mentioned in good.
And it's glorifying God, too, because they're enduring the suffering and having the faith, at the end of the day, they are glorifying God. through their suffering.
Absolutely.
And to go to your point, Patrice, I was thinking of somebody who I know went through a lot of suffering the last couple of years. And when we had taken Endow together on Pope John Paul's letters to women about suffering, and it was the first time I understood the concept of binding my suffering with Jesus Christ. And when I was helping, uniting our suffering with Jesus Christ's suffering, I remember going through, helping somebody in my family go through something that she went through. I remember, let me bind myself to her so I could help her bind herself to Christ. Because she wasn't really where I was at in my faith journey. So I thought, let me feel the pain with her, even though it's not my pain, it's her pain. But if I stay close enough to her where I feel that suffering with her, maybe I can help her bring her closer to Christ.
Right, because I think we cannot compare our small sufferings here in the United States, where we are so pampered with so many things. We have so many blessings that we overlook them on a day-to-day basis. We certainly cannot compare our suffering with what is happening to our people, yet nevertheless, they are the crosses that God has given us, however small they are, they still redeem us and bring us to salvation, hopefully. With that in mind, I think, when we look at the suffering of our people in Iraq and your suffering, it is very easy to see this is black and this is white. It's very easy to see that there is evil and there is good. And so naturally, a person can decide which direction they want to go. However, living here in the United States, where we are so pampered and we are given so much that we overlook, sometimes it is a challenge, a suffering in itself, to even, to cope with, to remember that, and to cope with the small little things that come our way that make it seem as if the world is ending when we really have nothing to complain about.
But I think that there's just a lot of different types of suffering. There's physical suffering, which seems to be what you're talking about. I had a hot shower this morning, and I have food when I get home, and and I have a roof over my head when it rains, and
you have electricity every time.
We have electricity works all day, every day, and so these are all physical comforts. But there's a lot of other sufferings, I think, that people discount, like emotional suffering.
Yes,
I have friends that are, suffering because they're single, and you can say, well, you have a job and you have a house. Why is that suffering?
Yeah, they're
but
lonely.
That is suffering. Or someone has a comfortable. It's an emotional suffering.
Anxiety.
Yes, there are some who suffer from mental illnesses like bipolar disease. So it's hard. How do you talk to them? How do you get them there? What is it how do you help them understand that it's still meaningful? Their suffering is not going to waste. How do you give them that hope? We say, let's pray, we'll pray for them as friends. How do you get them to, because obviously you've mentioned, it seems, and as it has always been in church history, the heart of our faith is the church being in the center of the community, which is what keeps us together, which is what unites us and helps us to suffer together and withstand suffering. But how do you help those that I just mentioned to
Mary, you're talking about those people who are so far from God. Like I've come across people who are suffering, and I'll say, well, we got to pray about it. Or they don't want to hear nothing from God. They don't want to hear about prayer. They don't want to go to church. They don't want to hear God's name mentioned at all. Is it what you're talking about? Because that's when I find most difficult.
Yeah, they're angry.
When I can't meet
they're
them.
Angry. They're not at a place where they're saying, oh, this is I'm going to understand this, and it'll bring some good, and this is God's will. And a lot of people will say, this is God's will. Everything that happens to them, they'll say, this is God's will. Every evil that happens, they'll say, well, this is God's will. And are they just supposed to take it and say, okay, God, this is your will. I'm just going to sit and wait for your will until,
something good happens. Yeah. That's a good question. Like dealing with people who are at that level, that they just think, bad things always happen to me. There's no God, or God's not going to help me. Is that what you're saying? Because I come across those people all the time, and I have no idea how to deal with that mentality.
First of all, actually, God is not looking for lazy people. He's looking
No.
for active people.
Yeah.
And when they say it's God's will, that one come after long time with a relationship with God. Because sometimes when we took the action, sometimes I don't like to take it. For example, my job, it is not actually to provide staff can provide by UNICEF, for example. I'm not work for UNICEF. I do respect, but I cannot to tell the God, it's not my job. No, God's will, I can be flexible and to be tools to any kind of work. I want to go back when people compare the situation with others. For example, you mentioned my people and your people here. I ask you, please don't do that.
Okay.
Please. You know why? Because you will feel guilty, and this is different.
I do feel guilty sometimes,
do.
and
I
having
would
what I
agree with
have.
you.
Yeah, please don't feel
And-
guilty about that. When we feel guilty, when we ignore what's happened there, that one, it will be sin. I don't want you here in the United States to feel the same suffering or to have bomb or no, but help us to not suffer anymore. So going back to your question, how you cope with that, how would you answer to the people? What is the meaning of that suffering? When people actually ask me, and you know, really it's too much negative energy there. Because people, they are, you know, asking and asking, and I keep my face smile to them, okay, mother-in-law, and keep the things, you know, going well. But I can feel people, they are taking from my positive energy, you know, even it's indirect. It's the same thing with people that are not believing God, because actually they are not looking for God. God, He is looking for them, and He is going to them because He led 99 sheep and He went to the lost one.
Yeah.
So don't actually be worried about them. We have to be worried about our community, our family, because the model for our life, not those people. We are the model to be followed. We are not follow them. So, and I'm not saying that we are better and those that are not. It's the same thing. It is not fair to compare them with the situation here and with my people. But it's the fair when we help those people and to stop that suffer. That will be really safe. So please don't feel guilty about your
So
life.
that's taking action. See, I think that takes the guilt away when you feel like you could do something. Because in some ways we feel helpless, but then organizations like helpiraq.org was created. So it gives us an outlet to say, okay, I may not be suffering there, but I can do something, right? I have extra money, or we can use this platform to tell the story. We have
Yes.
media. We have, you know, I believe that God gives us all talents in this world to do good. So find out what your talent is, whether it be somebody that is a good organizer, somebody who's a good fundraiser, somebody who's a good speaker. So I think some of that guilt comes from almost feeling helpless sometimes.
Yeah,
And then okay, you're not helpless because God gave you tools and you live in a great country and you can do something.
That's
Right.
right. Let's continue. My people, actually, they know the community here very well. But you don't know my community. How? Let's go back to my center, to my church. I call it center. I don't like to call it camp.
Yes.
The ladies there's a big caravan there. And that caravan, inside there are 14 wash machine and dryer. That one is held by you, by your community. Help Iraq. I'm talking about just one project, how
Yes.
that project make different. And each machine over and top, there's a schedule, name and time. That's mean Yimmet Hanno, okay, time 13. And she will bring all the clothes.
Yes.
And after 1 hour and a half, they took it back again. So it's give them time to not, you know,
Hand
take
wash.
Yes.
because
Yes.
we are not in the house. We are living outside. Just imagine during the winter when you wash the clothes, your finger need, I know, maybe a week just to be healed, you know, because it's dry and it's cold. So that project make our people or ladies to have time to study. That's why last month, almost the ladies, they were teaching, learning English. And after 1 month, the ladies there, and those ladies, they never been in school, almost. And they start, and the final day, each one actually, she took the paper and she start in English, say, my name's, I don't know, Hanna Zarifa, and she say, I'm from Karakosh, I have 2 kids and my husband name in English.
Yes.
Wow.
And I was really proud.
Wow.
That one is joy.
Yeah. So it's amazing. So, you know, their suffering has a ripple effect. It allows us, it evokes, you know, compassion and respect in us. It evokes us to be able to participate in their own, in their suffering by doing what we can. And that's what I meant, just to clarify. I didn't mean to discredit what we go through here. My point was that it's easier to see there. Sometimes it's harder for us to give credit or to embrace or to accept and recognize our suffering and how to deal with it. And as friends of those who suffer, how to help. That was just to clarify for our guests. I did not mean to discredit suffering.
And I know you didn't. I just wanted to sort of elaborate that there is so many different kinds of suffering, and and theirs isn't greater and ours isn't greater, and it's just like you said, he doesn't want us to feel guilty about what's going on there, even though we do. I do.
But you can take action, and that's
that's
why helpiraq.org is so important. But we're running out of time, Father Douglas, and we really appreciate you being here. And before we let you go, about less than a minute, any last words for our viewers or people here in America that you want to convey?
Thank you for this meeting, actually, and this opportunity to address you. And
you can look
I'll put it in 3 words. Pray for us, help us, and save us. Just remember that my people, they are dying there. And please open gates to my people. If you want my people to stay there, help them. If not, help them to leave. And remember, I am living among my people. I'm not living outside. So please don't let sheep live anymore among wolves. God bless you.
Thank you, Father Douglas. On that note, we're going to end the show. Thank you for being with us here today. And as always, we're going to end our invitation to sisterhood with our Sisterhood Pledge.
I pledge to never forget that God the Father always wills for my good, but allows trials to occur for my own salvation. I pledge to ask for grace that our youth may come to understand the salvific significance and impact of suffering. I pledge to help with the relief of suffering by doing all I can, whether big or small.